Several grandkids go to SIU.
You want to say your whole name?
Catherine, you want the whole?
Yeah.
Catherine Hutz Hartnagel.
And K
K is
spelled
my
C-A-Y.
yeah.
And your name is?
Robert Dunlap Hutz.
And so we've got a few questions for you. The first one is, when did you first purchase property at the lake?
I didn't ever purchase it.
We never did.
You
It was a
inherited.
gift.
We
from
were
our
gifted
mom.
it.
Basically, I think our grandfather started with giving it, our Uncle Bob had property at the end of Cottage Drive, and then our house was on Barnett Drive. And then when Kay and Rich.
When we
married,
came back
they
from the
came-
military, my mother and stepfather gave us, not this land, a lot on the other side of the East Lake Drive, a couple houses down, because I didn't want little kids on the lake.
So this is your, how many generations then from your family have been on the lake?
My grandfather never lived out here,
Oh, okay. So
never lived out here.
But
We lived here since 1965.
Yeah.
And you lived here since when, Bob?
Basically since, was it 52, whenever we moved out here from town.
Very good. And what brought you here is family. You know,
Yes.
You had connections through that. And what are some of your happiest memories on the lake since you've been here for a long time?
As a kid, it was just so much fun, you know, with just having the lake there. We go swimming through the summer. When the ice or lake would freeze, we'd have ice in the winter. We could play out on the ice, skate, learn how to skate. Fishing, I think just every kind of activity that you could do outdoors. For me, that was just so much fun. And we had an area that there wasn't a whole lot of houses when I was a young kid, and so we had kind of the run of the neighborhood. And just, to me, it was just a great place to be.
We used to go, my whole high school class, or almost all of my class, used to come out here and swim, not at our property, at someone else's property on West Lake Drive. And I ice skated out here and boated out here, don't fish.
The Banyos, everyone talks about swimming at the Banyos.
Mm-mm,
No?
never swam there.
And who are some of the leaders or neighbors that you respected the most? And tell us a little bit more about the other people on the lake and what they did and how your family related with them.
Gosh.
Just so many, they were like distant relatives. Cassins were
Yeah, they were,
related.
yeah, Cassins, Longs, and, can't think of their name now, okay. But anyway, they lived out here. Well, they came way before we did. I mean, he grew up on the lake. I did not grow up completely on the lake. And so, you know, like, people have moved out here since, I guess, more came after I left. You know, after I got married and left and then came back. People that, there's some of the first people that came out here lived on Cottage, and they were from Granite City. There were a lot of people who came from Granite City to live here, but a couple of them were Bruleys and Samanskys, and not Samansky, no. What was?
There's Bruley and Durleys lived.
Yeah.
They were, I think, were related in some.
They
fashion.
were brothers, or sisters, I don't remember which. They had to be sisters because they were, you know.
Yeah, I can't remember. The people lived in the first house on Cottage on the right-hand side, the White House. I was,
Yeah,
forgotten their names, but they were there for years and used to, again, I guess as a kid you were out there. And then right in that area also was Nelson's lived, in kind of the, one side is Barnett Drive, the other side of their house is on Thomas Terrace. And they had a drive-through garage. The house is still there, but it's been changed quite a bit. But they were always there. And I don't think they had any kids.
no kids.
But, you know, just a place, you know, go down and talk
But
with them.
that particular house, our grandfather actually built that house. Or had it built. I mean, he didn't physically do it, but he had it built.
I don't know, there were just so many people out there, and you just kind of got to know a number of them, especially on the dam end of the lake where we lived. Just,
But we got to know a lot of the people out here when the gun club, when the Edwardsville Gun Club was out here, which is no longer out here, but there were a lot of people who went there to trap shoot, and they lived on the lake. And some of them didn't, but a lot of them did.
and it was kind of a socialization
Yeah.
thing too. People got together, some people naturally didn't shoot, but they would be there, and it was just kind of like this thing to do on Sundays. A lot of people just got together there.
When I was growing up, my grandmother could not drive, so my mother or my dad or somebody would take us out there every Sunday. And my grandfather would we'd either eat dinner there or he'd take us someplace for dinner.
So your family was, most of the people living out here lived out here 12 months out of the year? Were there some seasonal people too?
Yes, there were seasonal people. My grandfather built this lake not for homes. He built it to be a summer retreat place. And all of a sudden, people started, there were a lot of little, in fact, my daughter lives in one of them now. That was just a little summer cottage, and it's been added on and added on. And yeah, that's how it started out. And then people started building and living out here.
And a number of the lakefront properties had very large docks, and so they'd have in a screened-in area where they spend a lot of time and have parties, etc.
And what are some of the things for the current residents of the lake that you think are important to address in the next few years?
Oh, don't get me on my soap opera for this one. Soapbox. The lake itself, the dredging of the lake, I think has to be done, period.
I think we're gonna have to address it, and it's a question of whether you try to do a large project all at once, or do you continue to spread it out? I think from our, I don't know if I would say consensus, but from the votes that have been taken so far, it's just kind of people shied away from being able to commit to such a large amount of money at one time. So I guess it might have to be scaled back, and I think that was one of the things that was been done for years, is that you wanted to do larger projects, but again, they could not necessarily get the backing to do them, so they just kept breaking them down into smaller pieces. Do what you can, try to make an effort at maintaining the lake. There was a lot of it down here at the beginning of East Lake and Gerber. We used to be able to dredge some areas there, or just dig them out and then let them fill back in again with the silt. But it's a long process, and I'm also an engineer, so a civil engineer actually, so that when you look at what happens, this is an unending problem. You know, the silt is always going to come into the lake in one form or another, whether it be just straight silt or if it's a combination with the leaves, etc. It is going to continue to wash in, and it never stops. Or they say theoretically it never stops. You could do it when there's so-called equilibrium, where nothing changes upstream. Well, that's never going to happen. It's going to continually to develop, something will change, and therefore then your conditions change, and so it will continue to bring the silt in the lake and cause the problems.
And what are some fun things that you remember in the past?
Oh, the old town boat. They'd have a small little band playing at, was it usually 4th of July?
Mhm.
And it would kind of cruise the lake. It was
There used
just an
to be-
old barge that was built.
Races, boat races
races.
out
Oh,
here.
tell us about the boat races. I
Well,
kind of heard about
I don't
that.
know much about them, but they were, yeah, They had speedboats, and they would go from the dam down the main part of the lake and then turn around and come back. And I don't know if they did them to win. You know, I don't know. Did they do them? They did them for a challenge to win or something. Yeah, I remember that.
I'm sure, yes.
And then there was also a biplane? No, seaplane that came in and landed on the lake at one time. And this was years ago.
When was that about?
Oh, early 40s, no, about 40 something. Yeah,
47.
47, okay.
And the boat races were over before I was ever old enough to
Yeah,
remember,
no.
so I don't know.
Because they disturbed shoreline of the lake. I mean, they washed too much of it away because they were going fast. And that's one of the reasons they have a restriction on boats,
So they-
motors now.
So they used to ski
Yeah.
on the
Oh,
lake?
yeah.
Oh.
But it's really not big enough to ski. I mean, they did. We used to use
We
boards.
have little surfboards, so some of us,
Yeah.
you make homemade ones where you take a piece of plywood and cut out a board out of it that was probably 2 feet or so wide and only 3, 4 feet long, and you tie a rope to it, and then you just kind of use that behind the boat. And now we have all the plastic ones and et cetera that
Yeah,
people
yeah.
purchase them, but when I was a kid, we had one, and it was just, you made it up, you made what you needed to have.
Trash can legs.
Whatever you
Something
could-
like that.
Whatever you could get to float. But to me, that was always the fun, was little things like having the band play, just something different. It's not, I guess that I paid a ton of attention to it, because I was pretty young at that point in time, but it was a memory that just kind of comes back that was something that took place out here years ago. And all the other people, as they do today with the pontoon boats, but just people getting out and kind of cruising around the lake a little bit, stop here and there. And again, on the large boat docks, and maybe there'd be a gathering of some people there from their family or whatever. Maybe once in a while, if you knew the people, you'd stop off and talk with them for a little while, party with them for a little bit.
Anything else you can think of you wanted to share or name drop?
No.
Because, yeah, I don't know a lot of the history of some of the other people that have lived here, so it's been interesting to hear. Like, I didn't know, so the Cassons that have the car dealership?
No.
No, different
It's another-
Cassons. Oh,
My
okay.
family, I think they were distantly related. I think I've heard that before,
Well-
but I don't know.
Their sister was married to our uncle.
Right, but I mean, then the Cassons with the dealership, they were
Oh, they're
distantly
some-
related
yeah, I
somewhere
don't know.
way back when.
I don't know
what that
much.
was. Never
It's
paid
not my
attention.
family.
Right.
So your earliest connection to the lake is 1952,
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was born in '51, and I don't know exactly when time it's debated, I guess I was somewhere close to a year old, I think, when we moved out.
Yes, you were a year old when we moved out.
So
And how much
sometime-
is well, it's changed because there's more bigger houses, but.
Oh, there were very few houses out here when we built our house out here.
How many of those little, because I see there's a few of the fishing things built into hills and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Were there a lot of those?
There were quite a few, yeah. I mean, still, everybody didn't, well, there were a lot of land that wasn't sold at that point too, but there wasn't just a
Wasn't too
whole
many
lot of
of
them.
us.
But
There was one here and there was one at
Yeah.
the end of Cottage Drive. As you went down Cottage Drive, the last house on the
Yeah.
right-hand side at the time it's been added onto, but it was just a little, I don't know, maybe a 2 or 3 room home. And I think that was just summertime, people came out and spent
There's
some time.
at the end of Hollyhock, there was a very small house which has been added on by people buying it, And let's- where our daughter lives on Westlake, there's one. And
It wasn't really a house, but as you mentioned, like digging into the side of the bank, the one just down the street, I guess actually is where Art Balls, no, not Art Balls, that was right across, next to them, just to the south. And they have a very, dock there, but then there's a big patio and a shelter that was there. And the next little island over, there's still the gazebo that's there, that was Joe Kellerman's, who was, in the sheriff's office in Madison County for years. But, so there was things there, and then next to us on Barnett Drive, there was a lady that had the dock, and she drive down close to the lake, and actually almost all the way down to the dock, but it was all screened in, and then there was the beach part of it was screened in, and then there was a small platform, and then actually a boathouse that was there.
there were a lot more boathouses out here than there are now. And once they took them away, you can't put them back.
Right.
You have to, there's different rules. Well, there weren't very many rules back early on, so yeah.
If there's anything I've forgotten or anything else you want people to know about the lake, you can think of?
I don't know, I think it was just that Grandpa started the idea of building it. What they originally looking to have it as a water reservoir for the city of Edwardsville. I think that was one of the thoughts that was kicked around.
Yep.
That didn't work out, so I think Grandpa had already started in the process of looking seriously at it and doing some planning, and he just continued on. Had the construction company going, and they built the dam.
Well, he didn't want to lay off all his workers, and that's part of the reason the dam got built. His workers worked during the winter time and did the lake.
And built some of the roads, which at that time were just pretty well just a little bit of rock and oil and chip surfaces. That should have changed a bit. So the city been improving them in the last several years.
What stories did he tell about the lake and about building?
If you want to do that with her questions, I'm out of questions, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,